I used to think she barely noticed me outside the office. Every morning I'd see her in the cafe downstairs, same seat, same corner, same order, black coffee, no sugar. She'd sit with her laptop open but hardly type, just stare through the glass as if the city outside had paused for her. I never meant to time my coffee breaks around hers. It just happened. Today, she looked up when I walked in. "You're late," she said, without smiling. "I don't think you're supposed to be keeping track," I replied. Her lips curved, just slightly. Old habits. There was always this polite friction. A quiet understanding that neither of us knew what to do with. She was my boss, after all. Or at least, that was the line between us. I took the seat across from her. I shouldn't have, but she didn't tell me not to. "You order the same thing every day," she said, glancing at my cup. "I learned from you." She looked away, pretending to check her phone. A small silence stretched between us, filled only by the hum of the espresso machine and the sound of someone laughing at the counter. Her hand brushed against the edge of my napkin when she reached for the sugar. She never used sugar. I noticed her nails, neat, short, no polish. "Long day ahead?" I asked, mostly to keep from staring. "They're all long," she said. "Some just feel shorter when someone listens." I didn't answer. She didn't need me to. In the office, she was different. Sharp, composed, unreachable. But here, she looked, tired, almost human in a way that made my chest tighten. The kind of tired that doesn't come from work, the kind that lives in the spaces between everything else. She tapped her cup twice before saying, "You've been quiet lately." "I've been trying not to say the wrong thing." "That's considerate." "That's fear," I said, surprising myself. She looked up, really looked this time. Her eyes softened, but her voice didn't. "Fear of what?" "Crossing lines." Her mouth opened, then closed again. The corner of her lip twitched like she wanted to smile but couldn't find the reason. Outside, it started to drizzle. She noticed it too. Her reflection shimmered faintly in the window beside mine, our faces overlapping like two moments that shouldn't exist together. "Do you ever just stop thinking about what's appropriate?" I asked. She exhaled slowly, folding her hands in her lap. "No. But sometimes I wish I could." I wanted to tell her that I thought about her even when I tried not to. That her voice had a way of staying with me long after she'd left the room. But I didn't. Instead, I tore the corner off my napkin and folded it into a small square. I don't know why. Just something to keep my hands busy while the silence thickened. She glanced at her watch, then at me. "You should get back. You've got reports due." "Right." I stood up, half expecting her to dismiss me the way she always did. But her tone changed, quiet, almost reluctant. "Stay a minute," she said. I froze. The rain outside had turned heavier. The glass between us and the street was fogged now. She leaned forward, her voice low enough that only I could hear it. "Don't call me ma'am tonight," she said. That night, when I got home, there was a message waiting on my phone. "Dinner. 8 p.m. Don't be late." No signature. Just that. I stared at it for a long time before typing a reply, then deleting it. I didn't need to ask who it was from. She picked a quiet place for dinner, a restaurant that looked like it belonged to another decade. Dim lamps, soft jazz, tables spaced far enough apart that secrets could breathe. When I arrived, she was already there, hair tied loosely for once, a strand falling across her cheek. She didn't look like my boss. She looked like someone trying to remember what it felt like to be seen. "You came," she said. "You invited me." She smiled, not her usual half-smile from the office, but something smaller, more uncertain. "I wasn't sure you would. We talked about work at first. Deadlines. Meetings. The usual armor. Then, somewhere between the appetizer and her second glass of wine, her voice softened. "My son's your age," she said quietly, almost as if it slipped out by accident. I didn't know what to do with that. She looked at me, waiting, then shook her head. "Sorry. That sounded strange." "No," I said. "It didn't." "It did," she said, but her tone wasn't embarrassed, it was tired. "He doesn't call much. He has his own life. That's how it should be." She stirred her tea even though it wasn't sweetened, just to keep her hands busy. I noticed how the candlelight flickered against her wristwatch, the same one she always wore at the office. Everything else about her tonight was different, but that small detail anchored her back to who she was supposed to be. "Do you ever feel like you're just watching your own life from the outside?" she asked. "All the time," I said. "Especially when you're in the room." That made her laugh, but quietly, the kind that ended in a sigh. I wanted to reach across the table then. Not to touch her hand, but to stop her from vanishing back into that invisible distance she carried everywhere. But I didn't. Instead, she leaned forward first. "You shouldn't say things like that," she whispered. "Why not?" "Because you mean them." We walked out together after dinner. The rain had stopped, leaving the pavement shining under the streetlights. Her car was parked around the corner. I offered to walk her, but she shook her head. "Go home," she said softly. "Before I forget, I'm supposed to be the responsible one." "You always are," I said. She smiled faintly. "Don't make it sound like a compliment." I laughed, and she looked at me then, really looked. Like she was memorizing something she knew she shouldn't. When she reached for her keys, her hand brushed mine. It wasn't an accident. Neither of us moved away. A second passed. Maybe two. Long enough for everything unsaid to fill the air between us. Then she pulled her hand back, straightened her coat, and said, almost in a whisper, "See you tomorrow." But it didn't sound like a promise. It sounded like a warning. The next morning, she was different. No smile. No small talk. Just a quiet, "Good morning," as she passed my desk, eyes fixed on her phone, as if last night never happened. I tried to focus on work, but my thoughts kept circling back to that look she gave me before leaving. The way her hand lingered near mine, how her voice softened when she said "see you tomorrow." Now, it felt like I'd imagined it. At noon, she called me into her office. Her tone was clipped, professional again. "Close the door." I did. She didn't look up right away. Just kept typing, pretending the air between us wasn't different. Finally, "About last night," she began. "Yeah." She hesitated. "It shouldn't have happened. It was just dinner." "Exactly," she said quickly. "Just dinner." But she wouldn't meet my eyes. I nodded, trying to sound casual. "Right. Of course." She exhaled, quietly, like she'd been holding her breath. For a second, I thought that was the end of it. But then she said, softer, "You make things complicated." I wanted to ask how. But before I could, someone knocked. Her assistant, voice too bright. "Hey, just a reminder, you've got the 2 p.m. meeting with HR, thanks," she said sharply. "Close the door." The interruption broke whatever fragile thread we had. She leaned back, rubbing her temples. "You should go." I didn't move. "You're angry." "No," she said. She stopped. "Just go." The office felt smaller after that. Every time I walked by her door, I could feel her on the other side, silent, steady, pretending none of it existed. Later that week, I stayed late to finish a report. The lights were half off, the air humming with the sound of computers cooling down. I thought I was alone until I saw her reflection in the glass wall. She was standing by the window, arms crossed, watching the city below. "You should get some rest," I said. I could say the same. I walked closer, slow, careful. Her hair was slightly undone, the way it only ever was after long days. "Are we going to keep pretending nothing's different?" I asked. Her voice came low. "We have to." A beat of silence. Just the sound of rain starting again outside. Then she turned, too close. The kind of close that makes breathing a conscious act. Her hand brushed my sleeve when she reached for the desk. A small, unsteady touch. I didn't move away. Neither did she. Her eyes flicked to my mouth for a second, then back up. A question she didn't ask. "You should go," she whispered again, but it sounded less like a command this time, more like a plea. I almost said her name. Almost. But she stepped back first. Just enough to end the moment. "Good night," she said, her voice breaking slightly on the word night. And just like that, she was gone. Top of form. The project ended late that Friday. Most of the team had already left, laughing down the hallway with their coats half on. I stayed behind, fixing a line in the report that no one would ever read twice. She was still in her office. Lights dimmed, blinds half closed, phone face down. I knocked once. She didn't look up. "You're supposed to be gone." "I know." "Then why aren't you?" I didn't have an answer that wouldn't sound like the truth. I stepped in, leaning against the doorway. "You missed your car again. It's still parked outside." She smiled faintly. "You keep track of that?" "Sometimes," I said. That made her look at me, really look. Her expression softened, then tightened again. Like she wanted to say something she'd been rehearsing but couldn't trust herself to. "People are starting to talk," she said quietly. "About us staying late. About you and me." I figured. "And you're not worried?" I shook my head. "They'll talk anyway." Her silence wasn't relief. It was something heavier. She stood, crossing the room slowly. Her perfume was faint, familiar, the kind that stayed longer in memory than in air. "Do you have any idea what you're doing?" she asked. I swallowed hard. "Probably the wrong thing." "Then stop." "I've tried." That made her laugh once, a small, broken sound that didn't match her face. "You're too young to sound that sure." "I'm not sure of anything," I said. "That's the problem." She leaned against her desk, arms folded. The city lights behind her outlined her like a silhouette. She looked powerful, untouchable, and completely undone. "I used to think I was in control," she said softly. "At work. At home. Everywhere. But lately," she stopped, pressing a hand to her forehead. "You make me forget myself." I didn't know what to say to that. She looked up again, eyes glistening with something she refused to name. "You remind me of being seen. And that's dangerous." The room felt smaller, air tighter. Every word between us was a thread stretched too far. "I'm not trying to make things harder," I said. "You are," she whispered. Without meaning to. A long silence. Then, almost under her breath, "Sometimes I imagine what it would be like if you weren't your employee." She nodded slowly. Her fingers brushed the edge of the desk. Mine found the same spot a heartbeat later. Skin against skin. No words. Just that quiet, unbearable nearness. Her breathing changed, shallow, unsteady. "You should go," she said again, but it didn't sound like before. It sounded like she wanted me to stay and hated herself for it. I hesitated. "Say something," she whispered. "I can't." Our hands stayed there for one suspended second too long. Then she turned away. Her voice, soft, final, "If you don't leave now, I won't be able to." Top of form. She didn't come in on Monday. Or Tuesday. By Wednesday, HR said she was taking some personal time. No one seemed to know why, and I didn't ask. But the office felt wrong without her, too bright, too ordinary. I caught myself glancing at her door every few minutes, half expecting to see her coat on the hook, the faint scent of her perfume trailing down the hall. Nothing. Just silence where she used to be. I told myself it was better this way. Space. Boundaries. All the things she said we needed. But by Thursday night, I couldn't shake the thought that maybe it wasn't space she wanted, maybe it was distance. When she finally came back, she looked different. Rested, somehow. Distant too. She smiled when she saw me, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Welcome back," I said. "Thank you. Everything okay?" "Fine," she said, too quickly. "Just needed to take care of a few things." I wanted to ask what things. I didn't. She spent the day avoiding long conversations, moving through meetings like a ghost. At one point, I saw her on the phone, her voice low, tense. When she noticed me watching, she turned away. Later, as people were packing up, she stopped by my desk. "Walk with me." We went down to the street, the air cold enough to bite. She pulled her coat tighter, eyes fixed ahead. "My ex-husband's back in town," she said finally. "He wants to talk about things we never really settled." I nodded, not trusting my voice. She looked at me then. "It's not what you think." "I'm not thinking anything." "Liar," she said softly. A half smile, then gone. "I just needed you to hear it from me," she added. Before someone else said something and made it sound like more than it is. I tried to laugh it off. "You don't owe me an explanation." "I know," she said. "But I didn't want to disappear on you again." For a second, I thought that meant something. That maybe this was her way of saying we hadn't imagined all of it. But then her phone buzzed. She glanced at it, her expression shifted. "I should go," she said, already turning away. I watched her walk toward the waiting car. A man stepped out, tall, older. He smiled when he saw her, that easy, familiar kind of smile that belonged to someone who'd once known her better than anyone. She hesitated before getting in. Looked back at me. Just once. Then the door closed, and she was gone. That night, I opened a new message on my phone. "You looked happy today. I hope you are." I typed it. Read it. Deleted it. Then I left the message box empty, the way she'd left her chair, waiting, untouched, unfinished. Top of form, she came by my desk late, long after everyone else had gone. The office lights were dim, the kind of light that hides more than it shows. She stood there for a second, not saying anything, fingers tightening around her car keys. "Can we talk?" she finally asked. We ended up outside, by the small park across the street. The city was winding down, streetlights flickering on one by one. She sat on a bench, and I sat beside her, not too close, not far either. "I shouldn't have left without saying something," she said. "It wasn't fair to you. You didn't owe me anything." "I did," she said quietly. "I just didn't know what to say." A pause. The kind that feels heavier than sound. She looked down at her hands. "My ex came back because our son wants to move in with him. He thinks I've been too distracted. And maybe he's right." "Distracted how?" Her eyes lifted, met mine. "You know how." That landed between us like a confession. "I didn't mean for it to happen," she said, voice steady but small. "You were just," she stopped, searching for the right word. "Unexpected." I didn't say anything. Didn't trust myself to. I told myself it was harmless, she continued. Just work, coffee, late nights. But it wasn't, was it? "No," I said. "It wasn't." The honesty sat there, exposed, trembling in the cold air. She rubbed her palms together, looking anywhere but at me. You made me remember things I'd buried a long time ago. That's not something I should thank you for. I smiled faintly. I wasn't trying to fix you. I know. She turned toward me, finally meeting my eyes. That's why it mattered. For a moment, we just breathed the same air, the kind of quiet that says everything without demanding anything. Then she said, "You're young. You'll move on from this. From me. I don't want to." She smiled, tired and tender all at once. That's why you will. Her hand brushed mine on the bench, hesitant, then still. The contact felt like the whole story condensed into a single touch. I keep thinking about that night, I said. The one after dinner. So do I. I almost told you how I felt. I know, she whispered. I almost let you. The wind picked up, carrying the sound of cars and faraway laughter. She stood slowly, smoothing her coat, as if readying herself for goodbye. I don't regret it, she said. But we can't stay here forever, in this in-between. I know. She smiled, a small, breaking thing, and touched my face once, just enough to remember it. Take care of yourself, she said. I nodded, unable to speak. When she walked away, I didn't follow. Just sat there, her warmth still on my skin, and whispered into the cold, "Okay." Top of form. It's strange how life rearranges itself without asking. A year has passed since that night on the park bench. I left the company a few months after, said I needed a change of direction. She didn't try to stop me, and I didn't ask her to. It wasn't anger. It was understanding, quiet and mutual. We still crossed paths sometimes. The cafe downstairs, the one where it all began, became neutral ground again. She still ordered black coffee, no sugar. I still arrived a few minutes after her, out of habit. But something had shifted, the air between us calmer now, no longer thick with what if. We'd burned through that already. What was left was lighter. Still can't handle mornings without caffeine, she teased once, stirring her cup even though she never added anything. Still pretending it's not about the company? I replied. She smiled, eyes crinkling the same way they always had. A familiar rhythm returned, not what we were before, but something steadier. Something that didn't ask for more. On weekends, we started walking, no plan, no destination. Just slow steps through the park near her apartment. The same one where she'd once told me we couldn't stay in between. Now, we didn't need to define anything. Sometimes we'd sit on the same bench, sharing tea from the thermos she always carried. She'd tell me about her son, how he'd finally settled in with his father, how they spoke more often now. I'd tell her about the small freelance jobs I was doing, how I missed her deadlines, her structure, her quiet corrections in red pen. It was enough. There was a peace in knowing that love didn't always need to be loud to be real. Sometimes it just needed room to breathe. One afternoon, it started raining, light, steady. She laughed, said I should have brought an umbrella. I told her she should have warned me about the weather. We ended up ducking under the awning of a small bookstore, waiting for the rain to ease. The world blurred outside, soft and gray. She looked at me then, the same look as before, but different. Softer. Free of guilt. You're not my employee anymore, she said. I know. So what are you now? I thought for a second. Someone who stayed. She smiled, that quiet, earned kind of smile that says everything's been forgiven, even if it was never spoken aloud. The rain eased, but we didn't move right away. Just stood there, side by side, watching the world start again. When she reached for my hand this time, it wasn't hesitation, it was habit. Every morning since, I still catch myself glancing at the clock around 8:47 a.m. That was when she used to pass my desk, coffee in hand, reminding me I was late. Now, it's just a small, private pause in my day. A moment that still belongs to her, and to everything we never had to explain.